Hi guys, hello there. So, thank you so much for this invitation. This looks really wonderful. So, Elliot, congratulations there. It's not very easy to say my surname. I'm Soalheiro, I'm Brazilian. So there you go, little Portuguese for you guys there. I'm gonna start by just telling you a little bit about myself. I'm a journalist. I worked with magazines for many, many years. I worked in a really big publishing house in Brazil called Editora Abril. I used to be the editor of a really important science current affair magazine called Super Interessante. It's a bad name for a great magazine. The translation is super interesting, bad name. And when I was there for 2 years, I was doing loads of 3-month research for articles on prostitution or alternative medicine and stuff like that. And then I got an invitation to become the editor for Capricho, which was the teenager magazine. And it was very interesting to me. I'm the only sister between 3 brothers. I'm now the mother of 3 boys. I don't know what the world wants to teach me about men that I don't know yet, that I haven't learned. Apparently I'm not a very good learner. And so I came to Capricho, and it was a little bit of a shock to me. You know, I remember the funniest thing, when I was an editor at Super Interessante, I would tell people, everyone, I'm an editor at Super. It was such a big thing to say. And when I went to Capricho, I would say, I'm an editor at Editora Abril. I wouldn't tell people that I worked for a teenager brand. But then it turned out to be the best professional experience I had, up until that moment, because Capricho really taught me how to do something for someone who wasn't like me, right? Those girls weren't exactly like me, and I had to do a great magazine for them. And then I ended up becoming editor-in-chief of Capricho and running an operation that included loads of merchandising products and events and a website and a magazine. And by the time I left Capricho, we had doubled its readership in the magazine. We had made Capricho's website the biggest teenager website in the world, bigger than 17, the American brand, which was our benchmark. And I left because I got an invitation to go to Fabrica, which is Benetton's communication research center in Italy. Fabrica, I don't know if you guys have heard about it. It was founded by Oliviero Toscani, the guy who created all those Benetton advertising that were very polemic in the 90s. And it was kind of a dream. Fabrica is this place where they bring people from all over the world, from very different disciplines, and they give you all the money, all the resource to do whatever you want for at least 1 year. And it's a building built by Tadao Wando, so it was basically paradise. And I couldn't say no, even though at this point in my career, I was 26. I was an executive in a really big publishing house, but I knew that I just had to leave. And the deal at Fabrica is that they will give you an artist's bursary. It's just very little money, but they give you all this space to do whatever you wanted to do. And what happened when I was going to Fabrica and I was faced with this decision, should I had a career in front of me. You could tell that if I had stayed in Brazil, I would have a very successful career. And then I could change all that for something that I had no idea of what was going to be. But I also knew, and I remember at that time talking to a lot of friends and some people saying, of course you cannot do it. And other people saying, of course you have to do it. And it's so hard when you come with those decisions. And I ended up deciding to go, which had a huge impact in my life. And now, as we all know, the editorial industry is not exactly in its best shape. And a lot of times I think, what a great decision to have left what felt such a safe career back in 2008. But when I decided to go to Fabrica, my then boyfriend, which is now my husband and the father of my 3 children, he thought what everyone thinks when your partner is going to work somewhere else. He thought, I'm going to take this opportunity to learn something. So we started looking into, all possible courses or post-grad, you know, things that Sergio could do while I was working at Fabrica. And Sergio was also an editor at Super Interessante, that really great magazine at this time. And it was funny because everything we looked, every time we saw a really great course, it felt to him, and to me as well, that sitting down to learn something wasn't as exciting as what he was doing at Super, which was doing stuff. And this is the seed of Mesa, this idea that the best way to learn something is actually by doing it. And it's interesting how in 2008, this seemed like a really unusual idea, whereas now in 2019, it seems so obvious to all of us, right? That the best way to learn something is through doing it. But it wasn't like that. So what happened was I ended up going to Fabrica. Sergio stayed in Brazil. We did a 2-year long-distance relationship. I do not recommend to anyone. But it ended up being really great because it was the moment that I understood for real how much I feel that work is supposed to be one of the greatest things in the world. That work, if it's well done, it's what gives us everything that we really crave as humans. And this is what I'm going to talk about a lot more today. But first I want you guys to watch this. So the idea that work, we lost the connection that we should have to work is so lost. And I think we are all picking up on it a little more now, but it is still, it's so lost that when people try to fix work, this is the kind of things that they do. They bring out a lot of things that have nothing to do with work, like ping pong tables or free food or hammocks. All the things that really have nothing to do with work, instead of championing the very things that make any human relate to work, which is the possibility of learning something new, or the opportunity of connecting to other human beings, or the ability of creating new things, which is really truly what work should be about. So what we are doing at Mesa is trying to build the perfect work experience. And that means we're looking into an experience that has to be 100% fulfilling for humans and yet 100% result-driven. And for many, many years, this was seen as opposite things. People would feel that if they want to do something fulfilling, then it wouldn't be as result-driven. It couldn't be really aggressive in terms of business results if it was nice for humans. And at Mesa, what we do is prove that that's actually a mistake. Because the more it becomes fulfilling for humans, the more results, and I'm talking about business results, you can deliver. So this is Mesa. Mesa means stable in Portuguese, by the way, and the reason we are called Mesa and the reason we set up every work environment with one table is that we believe that mesas are the perfect combination between pleasure and commitment. So pleasure because it's this place where you sit down and have drinks and food with your friends and family, but also it's where the object, a table is where you will sit down to make decisions, to sign contracts, and this is what the experience around Mesa is always going to be like. So these are a few pictures of us, Mesas with that, and I'll talk more about it. This is the way we define our one line about Mesa. We are a team-based work system designed to solve complex challenges by unleashing human potential to process more and execute faster. So ultimately, this idea of how humans relate to work is at the core of what we do, and is what we are investigating as we build the method, as we build the method. Mesas will allow you to conceive, develop, and prototype extraordinary solutions in 5 days. It's always a 5-day period. We'll do Mesa sometimes like for 3 days, 4 days, but ultimately there are 5 phases in which you go through in order to deliver something great. And when I say that you deliver extraordinary solutions, which might sound like just a random word, but the truth is, when people who are really great at what they do and really talented and passionate, they love a really big challenge. So whenever I have a really extraordinary challenge, I will have a better team. I will be able to assemble a better team, and that will lead to a better solution. So ultimately, Mesas will allow you to solve the most difficult challenges in the world by making the best team commit to it. The whole methodology of Mesa can be summarized into these 3 variable formulas. I often say, this is Mesa, this is the whole methodology here. And I'll talk about each one of them. A leader at the head of the table. We are really, we never ever use the word facilitator. The idea of facilitating for us is of someone who's very committed to the process. And at a Mesa, a leader is 100% committed to the result. And that changed the dynamic completely. If you are responsible for a result, what we believe is that if you're responsible for the result, you're gonna deliver a really great process. It's just going to come naturally. Whereas if you're focused on the process, you're not necessarily going to deliver a great result. The second variable, a team with all knowledge and skills that you need. And I love this because every time I say this, it sounds so obvious. Actually, everything about Mesa sounds very obvious, and it is ultimately really obvious. But you know, like, to solve a problem, you need to assemble every single piece of knowledge and skill that you need. And yet, this is not how most companies, most organizations, most artists are working right now. Most of the times you get a problem and you end up solving it with your team. You say, okay, I have this problem, I have this team, this is how I'm going to solve it. For us at Mesa, we let the problem itself tell us which are the pieces of knowledge and the skills that it requires. That allows us to move really fast inside big organizations, for example. So we sit CEOs of like $60 billion revenue companies for 5 days to work on a problem. Things that people would say, it's impossible to get that person for 5 entire days without their cell phones. But the way we do it is we look at the problem. If the problem tells me that it needs the person who makes ultimate decisions in this organization, then the problem needs it. It's not me, it's not based on hierarchy, it's not based on who's hiring me, it's the problem that requires it. And once you can explain that to anyone, it's like the problem requires this piece of knowledge. If the person says, I can't give you this piece of knowledge, then you can't solve the problem. Then you have to let that person know that they will not solve the problem. They'll waste money and they'll waste time and they will not solve the problem. Us as a company, we actually, if I can't guarantee every piece of knowledge and skill, then we won't even take the challenge. We say no very often to clients who can't provide us with the necessary set of skills or knowledge. And then, oops, what did I miss? There is another variable, which is the mission. And our mission at Mesa is always very tangible. It goes back to that idea that the only way to learn how to solve a problem is through doing it. So Mesas will really make stuff. We prototype, we use the word prototype because a lot of times the stuff that we create at a Mesa, especially when we're talking about really big companies, it will have to be developed later. But the idea, for us, prototype, it's not an example. It's actually building the thing itself. And I'll show some examples, just for example, whenever we're dealing with a technology challenge, we don't use prototyping programs like InVision. We code the thing itself. Because the only way to actually solve something is if you are doing it. If you're using any type of approximation, you're not really solving it. And I'll explain a little more why we feel like that. So just 2 examples here. We worked with Google to launch a new feature inside Google Earth. I don't know if you guys know, but now you can see content inside the Google Earth platform. And they wanted to launch that feature with the Amazon as their main theme. So we gathered a team that included, just go back here. So, okay, we need to launch a new feature having the Amazon as its main theme. Who do you need? We need the people who made this product. We need the software engineer from Google who created this product. We need someone who understands how to tell a Brazilian story, right? Like the Amazon forest, in a way that it really captures the attention of the world. We need someone who understands every aspect of this place on Earth when it comes to sociological or economical issues. You need someone who's a native from that area who will be able to let us tell these stories in a way that is really real, and it's not just advertising mindset, you know, just something that becomes so diluted that doesn't speak to the people from there. So we assembled this really amazing team. This is a Mesa where we had Fernando Meirelles, who's the Brazilian Oscar nominee filmmaker, the guy who did, I forgot, City of God and a few others that you guys might have seen. We had this Indian, that's native India, who is a leadership very connected to a lot of the communities, the tribes in Brazilian rainforest. We had people who were looking into the Amazon numbers and social demographic issues for many, many years, and then everyone from Google that we also needed. And what we did was create everything. So in 5 days, we launched, you know, the whole art directions and logo and name and the way the content appears on the platform. You know, like you have to decide, like, how, as the user, how I'm going to navigate this. How long are these videos? What kind of story am I really telling? And everything in 5 days. And it's interesting because Fernando Meirelles is like a really good story writer, screenwriter. And he wrote, we ended this Mesa with 14 scripts written. And he wrote himself 7 in 5 days. And if you talk to him, he's going to say it's a 6-month work in 5 days. Because if you have every single piece of knowledge and every skill that you need, a chair away from you, and you are focused on only one thing for 5 days, it's not actually a short period of time. It's 60 hours. And in other work environments, it's going to take you, I don't know, 6 months to put 60 hours into one thing. Because what we usually do is we'll do a meeting for 2 hours and then work for 4 hours and then we stop to do something else. And then every time you go back, you stop and go back, you are leaving the productivity of the second hour, right? Like the maximum productivity that you get is like the second hour. And at a Mesa, when you are on the hour 26, when you are like day 3, your level of productivity, the amount of information people are sharing, the way they're working is really impressive. But what I really love about this Mesa is that there was a moment where Google's software engineer was sitting down with our video maker, our motion designer guy, and they were, and Rebo, this guy that we had assembled for this Mesa, something important that maybe wasn't clear. So what we're going to do is look into every single piece of knowledge and every single piece of skill. Doesn't matter where they are, right? So some knowledge is from within the organization that brought us the problem, and some knowledge is out there in the world, and we'll reach to everyone or anyone. We don't work with like a pool of professionals that we usually use. I say there is a lot of journalism in this, even though it doesn't seem like it, because it's like, if I think the best person to join this team is in Germany, I'm just going to send them an email and say, listen, I have this problem, and do you want to come and work with us? But anyway, so these two guys are sitting and working, and Grebo says, okay, the video, so we have a script, we have a story where wood is being cut in the middle of the rainforest, and it's being driven to Manaus, the capital of Amazonas. And the code didn't allow the map to move together with the film, right? Like it's just like the way it was programmed up until this day, it was, you reach a place, you reach a point in the map, you play, and you watch the film. And Gribel, this guy that we had brought, said, why don't we make the map move together with the content? And the software engineers like, that's not possible. That's not possible. We don't have that yet. Of course, this is the kind of innovation that Google would reach, right? Like in the timeline of developing this product. But then he said, we can't do it. And Gribel was like, oh yeah, you can. You just have to do this and this and this. And they did it. So this is a Mesa where it was supposed to be just like how to launch a new feature, and we ended up doing a product change, which is virtually impossible when we're talking about Google, where all decisions are being made in Mountville, right? So I really love this example because it shows that if you really have every single piece of knowledge and every skill that you need, you're going to deliver a lot more. And it speaks to that idea of like 100% result driven. It was because the environment allowed Gribel to speak to the software engineer in a way that they wouldn't in other environments that we got there. And I'm just going to show you guys. So we did a lot of stuff, but one of the things that we did was the video to launch it. I forgot this video. So here, can you guys hear well?
O que pede.
So.
Se você é o que você sabe, é o que defende, é aquilo que acredita. Se você é o que gasta, usa, consome, se você é o que você respira, se tudo isso acabar, quem é você? Disco da sua conexão no Google Earth.
So this is what we launched at the day 5 of Mesa, right? And I really love it. I'm going to now show you guys what Google launched for Rio 6 weeks later.
If you are what you eat, what you drink, if you are what you know, what you stand for, and what you believe in, if you are what you spend, use, consume, what you breathe, if everything you are is being threatened, then who are you? Discover the connection between you and the forest on Google Earth.
Now you can see there are changes, right? All the images that we were using on the first video, on the prototype that we did at Mesa, were like from the hard drive of Fernando Meirelles and one of like some of the other participants. So Google had to actually refilm some stuff, buy the rights of stuff. But what I love about it is that it shows that what we're doing at Mesa is not a mood video. It's not like, okay, it's going to be something like that. No, what we're doing is, this is what it's going to be. And you're making decisions. Because if you're not making decisions, if you're just showing a, it's a mood video, when the decision maker comes to you and says, do you know what? I think the tone is a little too heavy. I think we should be a little more uplifting. The people who made it, they can always reply, yeah, but it's not going to be exactly like this. What we do at Mesa is we are showing this is going to be exactly like this. There is a choice here that we want to speak about it in a very heavy tone. And that's how we make decisions. That's how you help people. And the person who comes at the last day of Mesa to see this result and say, sign the check or not sign the check. In this case, it was like 6 weeks after Mesa, at the end of Mesa, this was launched globally. They know the decision that they are making. It's not like approximately, close to that. It's the real thing. I'm going to just show another one very quickly. Burnout's Mute. He's the guy who makes clouds. I don't know if you guys know this Dutch artist. His thing is reproducing natural phenomena in an artificial way. And Burnout had been trying to make a rainbow into a landscape for 3 years. And I spoke to him and he said, oh, I've worked with all, the best light specialists, about the best physical specialists, and, I just can't get it right. And I asked him, but have you worked with all of them together? Have you put every single piece of knowledge and skill that you need around the same table and worked for 5 days? And so that is what we did. We created the first rainbow into a landscape. We can talk about it later, but in his work, there is an element of deception in his work always. So it's an upside down rainbow, but it's I really love this one because I think it shows it's not like coming up with a creative idea. It's like solving a problem. This guy had been trying to solve this problem for 3 years, and then we did it in 5 days. I like this one too. I'll just quickly show it, but we had this bank, the biggest bank in Brazil, ask us to design an app for young children who want to invest in pension, who don't want to invest in pension fund, but they wanted them to start worrying about how to save money. But the great thing here is that there was a moment at this Mesa where the IT director of the bank said, okay, we can do it. You know, we created whatever we were creating, and he said, okay, we can do it. It's gonna take us 20 months to connect the back end of the bank system to this app. And then one of the specialists that we had brought, this guy who's really amazing at creating digital products, he was like, 20 months? You don't even know if people are using cell phones in 20 months. That's not an acceptable time frame. And the IT director of the bank said, but this is a bank. You have to be really safe. It's security. And the guy was saying, but that's just money thrown away because in 20 months, you don't even know if that's good. And the fact that they had to work together, and both of them had to get it right. Like, right, we don't want a bank to compromise on security, but you also don't want to invest millions of dollars into creating a product that it's not going to be really something that people care about. And they had to fix it. They had to get to a point. They had to understand how to make it safe enough and be launched in 7 months, which is what the time frame that it was launched. And I think this is also really speaks about the Mesa's belief that it's not about compromising. It's not about the middle ground. It's about every single piece of knowledge and skill getting exactly what they believe is the best thing that they can do. This is just an example I'll show quickly. We built a gym facility in 5 days. This is a problem. This is a client that started with a problem that was, I need to open a new category in the fitness industry. This is what we had when we started. And day 5, Friday, we had the whole gym built. We had all the trainings written and filmed. We had all the money decisions of how much it's going to cost. What is the structure that this gym needs? Everything in 5 days. And again, this one is one that I have to say that even when I didn't lead this Mesa, it was someone else on my team. When Rafael told me we are building the gym, I was shocked myself. But it's the thing that happens when you have every single piece of skill and knowledge close to you. And then I want to share with you guys why I think we can do it, like why I feel that Mesa has been able to deliver so much result. And I think it's because we have been designing work in a way that really unlocks people's potential, because it's the way that people are meant to work. The first thing for me that is crucial is that to work, we all know deep inside that the only work that is worth doing is work that you are creating something. And it doesn't matter, I'm not talking about an artistic, not like burnout necessarily. I'm talking about solving something that didn't exist, right? Like just I often compare doing a Mesa with baking a cake. It didn't exist, and now it exists. This reward that we get when we create something is the most valuable thing any of us want to go through. It's not by chance that most religions in the world speak of God as a creator. This feeling that you can shape the world is the reason why we're here. It's what moves us. It's what, when you are about to die, you're going to look back and think, what is it that I made? When it's New Year's Eve, I don't know how much you guys do like retrospective of New Year's Eve, but Brazilians are pretty good at that. And it's the end of the year. Everyone in my team, we often joke about it, everyone in my team is happier than their friends at the end of the year because they created so much great stuff in 1 year. And we know now, doing Mesas for 7 years, that if you ask someone to create something, if you give them the opportunity to really invent something that wasn't there yet, they will get that opportunity and they will thrive and they will deliver way more than we would expect. And it's funny because most of the times, a lot of work environments are not requesting people to do stuff, right? They are just requesting people to think or to plan instead of actually making the things. But at the same time, which for us, it's completely nuts because, you're just getting the worst of people. And also because even the most strategic decisions are better done if you ask someone to execute. Even the most, so for example, I don't know, let me think of a very strategic, like how we've helped Fiat Chrysler work on the challenge of like what kind of connectivity makes sense in a car. In a world where your phone is always going to be better than your head unit. Any car, like there is no way a head unit inside the car is going to be better than your phone in the world of today, for many, many reasons. Because the software talent is not working for the automobile industry, because this moves a lot faster and etc. This is a strategic challenge. This is something you could debate for like 10 years, 20 years. Actually, humans can debate anything for 10 years. Anything like the color of this chair. So what we do is we will force people to move into execution. We'll say, we will not debate stuff. You're going to execute it. And while you execute, the debates that are going to come are going to be really meaningful. They're going to be the real things that you need to be discussing. Because it's while you are doing that your brain shifts from criticizing mode, which is a very human thing to do. We're critical beings. If you ask me, if you show me an idea and you ask me to talk about it, I'm going to start seeing all the flaws in that idea. But if you ask me to execute something, to build a solution, all those flaws, all those barriers and problems, they will come. I won't be able to look at them, but I'll build features in that solution to solve it. It's a simple, not as simple because it takes a lot of our clients, even our like long life clients, sometimes will call me and say, I don't need the prototype, I just need the decision. And I have to say, yes, that's exactly why we're prototyping. That's exactly why we're making something. So for me, this is a very important instruction. It's to stop asking people to debate. Stop, don't ever come to a work environment and say, we're gonna talk about it. It's the least efficient thing you can do if you want to solve the problem. Ask them to make something, and then you're going to solve the problem. And why? Okay, so since I'm asking you guys to stop asking people to debate, which is quite radical, then I'll ask you to stop using the word collaboration. Now, collaboration has become one of the most important words of our time. And Mesa is an incredibly collaborative process, right? You can tell, like you get people. I just told you a few examples where you have a software engineer and a motion designer and they are collaborating to solving something. But collaboration became a way for us not to really know why we need people. So you call someone and say, hey, can you come to this collaborative process? And what their brain, or can you come and help me in this collaboration process? And what their brain will hear is, okay, I have to be there, and someone else is responsible for making some sort of magic happen, and the solution will come. If you simply stop using the word collaboration, and you call that same person and say, Fernando, like Fernando Meirelles, the filmmaker, I need you, because there is no one in the world who is as good as you into telling a Brazilian story to a global audience. Then what his brain hears is, okay, I need to be there, and whatever we create needs to be excellent at telling a Brazilian story to a global audience. And it's only when you give every person a very specific responsibility that you're going to reach excellence. Otherwise, you will only reach the middle ground. If no one in a room knows exactly why they're there, they have to compromise. You haven't told them what is the pillar that they hold. You haven't told them why exactly you need them. So what I've learned, and it's funny because we train leaders, right? I train leaders in the Mesa method all the time. And the first thing I tell them, it's really interesting because it's the natural reactions that they have to call someone and they will say, oh, it's a collaboration process. And then the first instruction is, you're going to just do one call and you're not going to use the word collaboration. And when that happens, the person has to prepare better. The person has to actually know why they're calling someone. They have to know. They have to say, okay, so I can't use collaboration, so I have to tell whoever what I need them for. And then it just not using the word really can make a huge difference. So you don't, like if you see our website or, you know, we never ever use the word collaboration, even though we are so focused on it. Because, you know, so we are collaboration, it's a little bit like happiness. If you focus on it, you're not gonna have it. If you focus on telling people responsibilities, then you're gonna get it. There is something else that we all know. I think we all know that the only thing that people love about rules is breaking them, right? So I get here and I say, you can't use your cell phone. And that's the first thing you all want to do. What we understood with Mesas is that people love rituals. So if you create an environment, and rituals are the only way to change behavior. Because the only way to actually change behavior is if you change the context. If I arrive at an environment, I'll give you guys an example, I'll even jump it and then I'll go back to this too, but hierarchy is one of the most important things that we are fighting when we're doing a Mesa, right? Imagine I'm sitting the CEO of like a $60 billion revenue company, and I'm sitting a motion designer. And these two people were as important in a Mesa because they both hold a piece of knowledge or skill that problem needs. And there is no difference. For us, this is so core that we pay everyone the same in a Mesa. You can be a 17-year-old influencer, like a YouTube channel, but that would be expensive, but you get what I mean. Like you can be a 20-year-old motion designer and the CEO of a huge unicorn company and that are both working for like a big corporation and you're all being paid the same. If I were to arrive at a Mesa and in that environment and tell people, so this is an environment with no hierarchy, no one here is more important than anyone else, the CEO of the unicorn company, the first thing he or she would want to do, more usually a he, unfortunately, they would want to hold to their status, you know, to their hierarchy status. But when they walk into this environment, and there is a table set, and everyone has their name, and everyone is the exact same, except from the leader who takes the head of the table, we've never had an episode where we had to deal with hierarchy. We've done 180 Mesas so far in the world. We've never had a situation where I had to sit down like the CEO and say, listen, you have to respect the 23-year-old motion designer. Because the environment just builds for it. It's the same with cell phones. So we have this ritual, we call our cell phone holder thing, leave me alone. So it's your cell phone asking you to leave them alone. But it's the fact that people, and there is your name, and it's just one of the rituals before you sit down around the table, everyone walks through this place and put their cell phones there. And it's been like maybe twice or 3 times in our lives that we had to really hold on to that rule, to that ritual, and like where someone was saying, I'm not going to take my cell phone away, and we won't open a Mesa if anyone is holding to their cell phone. But it just makes it easier, and it's interesting that even the people who suffer on day 1 to put their cell phones away, by day 3, it's such a ritual that everyone comes back from lunch and puts their cell phones there. It just becomes such a part of the context that everyone ends up doing it. And also the mission. So a very important thing for us is opening a mission. On the second day of Mesa, and we can talk more about it, but the first day is only a download of information, so we only start working for real on day 2. When we open, and there is an envelope, everyone gets it, everyone opens it together, everyone reads it together. After that, I don't have to be reminding people, no, you committed to this. No, guys, we can't leave this behind, you committed to this. This ritual of everyone opening a mission, reading it, closing it, agreeing to it, is what drives the whole 5 days process without having to remind anyone that they can't leave anything behind. So we are very ritual driven. Everything, like for us, the head of the table is a very ritualistic place. You can't just be playing at the head of the table. When you speak at the head of the table, it's important, it matters. And we treat everything to create this context where people understand that you have to to deliver greatness. And then that's, the last ritual was the one I was speaking to about hierarchy, because one of the greatest things that we've learned at Mesa is that work environments where someone is working at the service of another person, if you feel you are working for someone, it's not going to unlock your best potential. It's only when people feel that they are working with, and it's their responsibility. Going back, remember, you know what responsibility you have, and you know you need everyone who's sitting around you. That's how you get the best of people. And this is, again, especially when I'm talking to like decision makers in huge organizations, this is such a subtle thing that you can change tomorrow. Like the way you talk to your team. If you just let your team understand that they are working with you rather than for you, it will change the way they work. And it really will. And at Mesa, I think this is a very important thing. We don't see the people who bring us a problem, we don't see them as clients. We see them as the problem owner. And here I'm gonna tell you a little bit more. So when I came back from Fabrica, so I went to Fabrica. It was a very great experience in my life because they used to produce Colors, which was my dream magazine. When I was at the university, I wanted to work at Colors. I ended up becoming editor-in-chief of Colors, and then it was, for me, it was a little bit like, okay, I've done, you know, I'm a journalist because I wanted to work at Colors, and now I've done it. What am I going to do next? So when I was about to come back to Brazil, I was invited to go and work in an ad agency, which is very crazy because I had no, I mean, I always knew Fabrica is a little bit of advertising, right? This place where Benetton does amazing things, but I had never worked in an agency. And when I came, my first meeting at an agency, and I got this invitation to be a creative director at Kubo, it's a digital agency in São Paulo and New York, they have 2 branches. And I went to a meeting, and it was the biggest Unilever ice cream brand in Brazil. And then 2 hours, I heard these people, they knew everything about Kibon, and I came back, and I had to create something without them. And I remember going to Martini, the founder of Kobe, and saying, you know, this does not make any sense. Like, no one knows more about Kibon than Kibon. Why on earth do you want me to create a solution without them? This is just, for a journalist, it didn't make any sense the way that advertising agencies were working and still work most of the times. And that behavior, when you're so blind to the fact that someone knows more than you about something, creates 2 possible behaviors that are the worst for work. One is you become very servile. You become, is that a word in English, servile? You start doing everything your client wants. Right? Like you start just saying yes to everything. That's one type of behavior. It's like, no, this person wants that. And it's like you're not dealing with what they know or what they don't know. You're just saying yes to everything. That's a really bad behavior, very common, especially in the communications industry. The other second behavior, which is really common, is the idea that the client is a barrier to you. The client is stupid, and he's just stopping you of doing great work. These are both really bad ways of dealing with a problem owner. The people who work inside Google, Facebook, Netflix, whatever, name it, or burnout, you know, like you also have to remember that organizations are organizations and they're kind of all the same. They know what they know. They know way more about Coca-Cola than you will ever know if you're not working in there. The amount of information that we have about things that we live with every day, about the things that it's the thing that your colleagues said in that meeting 2 years ago that really impacts the decisions that our company makes. So if you're not seeing clients as problem owners, the chances are you're really missing out on a lot of information that you needed to have. So what we do at Mesa is a client has a pillar of knowledge just as important as, you know, like Fernando had the pillar, someone who can tell a Brazilian story in a way that reaches a global audience. The software engineer is someone who's responsible for making this product. I mean, I need both of them just as much in order to deliver great results. We really believe that the era, and because of that, we actually really believe the era of outsourcing your problem is over. There will be no way a client can just hire. There is no great result that comes from just hiring someone else to do the work that you have to do. And a client is going to have to be involved with the solutions that they want to create. That changes, for us, if it feels like it changes the world dynamic, the work dynamic a lot. It implies that you will do less things than you used to do in terms of really solving problems. You can't really solve, I don't know, you can solve as many problems as your energy allows you to connect with that problem, right? Like you will have to give your mind, your time to problems that you want to solve, if you really want to solve something. Because again, there is no one in the world, if you are the client, there is no one who will ever know more about you, your organization, your design studio than you. And you will have to give that to people if you want to solve that problem. Now, we all know that time is the most valuable variable of our time right now, right? Like it is for me. I have 3 children. I run a global company. We do mesas in Ghana, New Zealand, Australia, name it. Time is the most important thing for me. And it's interesting because a lot of times I hear people saying, oh, I don't have time. And I find it so weird because I always look and say, oh, you actually have the same 24 hours as anyone else in this planet, right? Like we all have 24 hours a day. But the way you use it is going to be the thing that separates people who are going to make good use of time and people who are going to just lose time. Because there is a thing that is happening. In a world where you have you think, okay, let's go back to maybe 20 years ago when you had to do 40 things in a day. You could do, like, the possibilities for you were like 40 things in a day. Then you worked. We were all under the impression, actually, we were all working on a way that you could do 40 things in a day. So when the cell phone came up, it was really great to all of us because I could move from like being in a meeting and deciding the software provider and deciding the birthday cake of my child. I could move from one decision to the other really quickly, right? Like I could do 4 things quickly. Not simultaneously. The idea of multitasking being that you simultaneously do a lot of things is a mistake, is a fallacy. You don't make decisions at the same time. You just move quicker towards decisions. Now, there is a study that, one of those studies, you can prove any, I worked for a science magazine, you can prove anything with really serious studies, but there is one that says now that we make 35,000 decisions every day, which I think is pretty accurate. I cannot make 35,000 great decisions every day. So if you are not learning how to be present and really choosing the decisions that you're going to make really well, you are going to end up doing no decision well really fast. That's why it's like my core belief that being present, it's going to be the #1 thing that separates people who are really great at what they do and people who are not. Because if you are not, you will be able to, you can spend your life and imagine like in 10 years as the world gets more complex, more connected, then you have more possibilities, right? Because that's what complexity means. Like the world's getting complex. It means I have more possibilities to talk to people all over the world in different parts. And I have this feeling that I could be doing 40,000 things a day. If I don't learn how to be really present and solve one thing a day or one thing a minute, I'm going to end up not doing anything. And it's interesting how I feel this idea of presence is already going into the workplace when we talk about individuals, right? A lot of great leaders do a lot of mindfulness exercise, meditation, right? Like everyone is understanding that individually you need to be able to focus. But we rarely speak about how this dispersion, this incapacity of being present affects a team. And what Mesa actually creates is this environment where you have 12 to 16 people, all of them super present. And that's how you end up delivering a whole gym facility in 5 days. Because you have every single piece of knowledge, every skill present at that time. And that is those same 24 hours, right? Those same 60 hours, everyone is working 60 hours a week. But some people are delivering the problem of their main problem, their main business problem, a category that now is growing in Brazil 40% a month. This new category that these guys created in Mesa. Some people are using the 60 hours to do that. Some of us, and I say that because I'm addicted to my cell phone. I'm really bad. I often say I created this whole thing just for me because I'm really bad if I don't force myself to be really present. Some weeks I'm just spending 60 hours doing nothing really, like nothing really meaningful, nothing really impactful to my company, to my business. So I just want to, for until March this year, we were this company. We were just a company that did a lot of mesas for a lot of people. A lot of companies around the world. And in June last year, we decided to do a Mesa for ourselves. And our main problem was the scalability. How do we scale this? But in this Mesa, we ended up understanding that this thing that we created is so powerful, and it's so simple, it's so obvious that we should really be giving, it doesn't make sense to use this method just for really big corporations who can pay it. So we decided to open the method. And it's a really interesting thing. So we've created Mesa.school, and we will now teach anyone in the world. And if you have a problem, a real problem, you can get Mesa.school for free. You just write to us, tell us a problem. If it's a problem that is worth it, we're going to give it for free. And I'll teach anyone who wants to learn the method, because ultimately we really want people to solve their problems in a much better way. And it's an interesting thing, because when we decided to open a method, imagine something that you create and it's kind of a baby for you, and all of a sudden you're like, I'm just going to give it away. And some people are going to use it really badly. It's interesting because the first fear is like, some people are going to use it really badly. Until one day, one guy came to me and said, do you know that the real fear that we don't think about is that someone is going to use it way better than you? That is the real fear. But it's so powerful, and it's interesting because it's this mixture, I'll show you guys, because now we're actually teaching a lot of people how to lead mesas. So clients who used to give us 4 mesas a year, now we're teaching them and they will do it without us. And a lot of times people are like, but why do you do it? What do you get from it? And I ended up understanding that it's the perfect mixture between selfish, like altruism, okay, I'm going to give it to the word, but selfishness as well. Because it becomes way more powerful when you're actually allowing people to use it, allowing people to solve the problems that they have. So this is us. Like this is Facebook Creative Shop in New York, the global team. They are now using Mesa method. We taught them how to use the method to solve problems for their clients. Samsung, Coca-Cola, ABI. These are mesas that you could argue that I could be being hired to do, and it's true, but now they're doing it without us. And this is great, because I feel every time I see a result and I get a message from Fe, who's one of the leaders that we trained, saying, I'm about to do this, can you have a look at my team? Can you have a look if that is if there is a pillar missing? It makes me feel that's the mixture of like altruism and selfishness, because it makes me understand how powerful it really is. But then you have Léo Cirino, the guy from the gym that I taught you guys. So this is a guy who bought 4 mesas last year, and we taught him how to do a mesa, and this is a mesa he's doing. This is his. I have not, like, my team has nothing to do with it. He uses the same, same mission envelope, the same set the table, and when I look at it, what I feel now is, fuck, this is really great. This guy is really using it. This is Henrique Cantanucci, a designer from the south of Brazil. He is the first, look, I don't know if you guys can. He learned the method, he bought the course, he learned the method, and he said, I'm going to sell it to one of my clients. And then he wasn't really selling it. He was like, it's really hard to sell because people don't believe you can do it in 5 days. So he actually used street posters in Curitiba, this city in Brazil, something I would never do, guys. I would be like, my method, take your hands out of my method. He was like, I can solve this, that thing there says, I can solve your problem in 5 days. And it's like you could call him to solve your problem in 5 days. And this is him doing a Mesa 2 weeks ago. And this is Fernanda, a school teacher, who decided to use the method to solve a problem inside a public school in São Paulo that for many years had the worst, how do you call it, like when you don't pass in history classes. And that's her doing a Mesa with her team. This is so powerful. The fact that you can actually help people who have real problems. And again, I think like maybe it goes back to being a journalist, goes back to being someone who understands that the world has a lot of problems. And it's our job to make sure we're solving them in a better way. And it's our job to help everyone, every human that we are working with, to have a better experience in the journey that we call life, right? So if we can really help everyone, and a lot of people say, what if I solve all my problems in 5 days? What am I going to do later? I'm like, you go to the beach, you know, I get a lot of that question when we were doing the Facebook Global Team Project, because Mesa's really cut a lot of the work that usually a classic advertising communication process would have. I got asked that question a lot. The people were, one day someone asked me, but I'll have to fire a lot of my team if I do it in a Mesa way. I was like, if you don't need them, let them go, you know, like let them find something else. Let's help them find something else. But let's help everyone solve their problems in a better way and have a life, like have a connection to work that is really meaningful. Because again, work is supposed to be one of the greatest things in the world. And that's it. So this is we have Mesa.school, we have an app that we are developing, and we do a lot of leader sessions you know, throughout the globe to teach people this method. That's it, guys. Thank you so much.